Hey guys, I'm your host Matt, and we're here to talk about the Dolphins versus the Cardinals on the Matt Newton Football Show. Now, the Dolphins had a disappointing loss to the Arizona Cardinals, and it's very difficult to point your finger exactly on what went wrong for the Miami Dolphins. Now, there's a lot of directions you can possibly go in terms of how it all went wrong for the Dolphins, but as far as I'm concerned, it begins and ends with the quarterback play, and it usually does in the NFL, right? But in this particular case, I think it was very clear if you're watching the game, especially in the second half, that Kyler Murray was the best player on the field for both teams on Sunday. And I think his ability to make plays inside and outside the pocket was basically the difference in between the Dolphins winning and losing this game. And it's not to say that Tua Tagovailoa played poorly in his return. As a passer, he played pretty well. As a ball handler, it seems as though he had some issues, which led to either broken drives or turnovers for the Miami Dolphins. And that's obviously something they have to clean up. But Kyler Murray was spectacular in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. He completed passes all over the field to Marvin Harrison Jr., including a big touchdown pass against Jalen Ramsey. So Kyler Murray was really hot on this game, and he was able to carry his team to victory. And I would go so far as to say that if Kyler Murray played on the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa played for the Cardinals, that the Dolphins would have won this game. That's how well Kyler Murray was playing on Sunday. So Tua came back. He probably had a little bit of rust. That's to be expected. He missed 5 weeks of actual practice time. He missed 4 games in total. So most people would expect some rust coming back to the team. But, he was pretty sharp throwing the ball, and he was pretty efficient, throwing for over 200 yards and a touchdown. But where Tua really, I thought, could have been better was just making bigger plays down the field and getting Tyreek Hill more involved in the second half of the game. Tyreek Hill completed the game for 6 catches for 72 yards, but I think he had 5 catches for 69 yards in the first half and only 1 catch for 3 yards in the second half. So that's not really ideally how you'd like to get Tyreek Hill involved. But the Dolphins did have a lead late in the game on Sunday versus the Cardinals in the second half. So it's probably why the Dolphins probably thought that they could salt away the game running the ball more than throwing it. But to me, your game plan, if you're the Miami Dolphins, should always begin and end with Tyreek Hill. He was nominated the top player of the top 100 list as nominated by his peers. And clearly, he's probably the most dynamic weapon in the NFL. But for some reason, the Dolphins this season have been having problems getting him the ball, whether it's with Tua Tagovailoa against Buffalo or whether it's Tua versus Cardinals. Tyreek Hill hasn't been as influential on the game as you would like. And to me, that's very disturbing if I'm a Dolphins fan. Also, Tyreek Hill had an ankle issue coming into the game. On Thursday, he had a limited practice. On Friday, he did not practice. So Mike McDaniel said that he was confident that Tyreek Hill would play in the game, and he did. But maybe that ankle injury that he had sustained during practice last week, maybe that affected his ability to perform on Sunday, at least in the second half. Maybe the injury got re-aggravated. Maybe it was a little bit sore from having run on it in the first half. So it's hard to really say why Tyreek Hill didn't get the ball in the second half. But if you're a Dolphin fan, you'd like to see him more involved. When Tyreek Hill catches for more than 100 yards for the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins are more likely to win than lose if you go back and look at the Dolphins' win-loss record since Mike McDaniel's been the head coach. So that's it for the Dolphins' passing game as it relates to Tyreek Hill. But aside from that, Tua was able to get Jonnu Smith involved, Jalen Waddle involved, Devon Achane involved. And, he was able to keep the Dolphins ahead of the sticks in a way that none of the backup quarterbacks could do for the last couple of weeks. So it's obvious Tua was an upgrade for all the quarterbacks the Dolphins started, but it wasn't Tua's best game that he's had as a Dolphin. And on this Sunday, frankly, it wasn't really good enough for them to win. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Tua gave the defense the lead with 5 minutes left in the game, but, a defense like the Dolphins defense, which were missing key starters, like Zach Sealer had an eye injury. I think he had an orbital bone fracture. Then you're talking about Kato Kohu missed the game. Javon Holland came in there with a bad hand. Then he hurt his knee during the course of the game. So the Dolphins defense was really trying to keep it all together with duct tape. The offense seemed to be healthy and fully intact. So you'd like to see that unit kind of carry the team in a complementary type fashion to put up some more points on the board, to give the defense a little bit more of a cushion, a little bit more of a margin for error for the course of this game. But the offense wasn't able to do it. So as a result, the Dolphins, allowed a late touchdown drive, a late field goal drive versus the Cardinals, and allowed them to go ahead 28-27 to seal the win. Now, as far as Mike McDaniel is concerned, it's another game where you think that Mike McDaniel might have been a little bit outcoached against the Arizona Cardinals. It seemed as though at times during the course of the game, he didn't get his best player involved in Tyreek Hill. At late in the game, even though Devon Achane had the hot hand throughout the course of the game, he had 19 carries for over 90 yards. He had explosive runs and explosive receptions. Late in the game, he handed the ball off twice to Raheem Mostert, even though Raheem did score the 2 touchdowns, but he also did not have a good yard per carry average. I think he was averaging just over 2 yards per carry. So you would have liked to have seen him get the ball to Devon Achane a little bit more, but you can understand why he went to the savvy veteran, even though the veteran fumbled last week late in the game that caused, or not caused, but led to the loss to the Indianapolis Colts. But, I guess he wanted to show his veteran running back that he still has confidence in him. So he had Raheem Mostert there on a very important drive late in the fourth quarter. But Raheem was stuffed in those 2 runs. And then on the third down play, Tua mishandled the snap, or the snap came in too hot, or maybe it came in too high. Maybe Tua wasn't expecting it. But either way, he wasn't able to field it properly. And he had the awareness, at least, to punch the ball out of the end zone so that it would be a safety. Now, whether Tua punched the ball out or the ball rolled out itself, either way, it would have been a safety. But if you're the Dolphins and if you're Tua in that position, you definitely don't want the Cardinals to recover the ball for a fumble. That's the worst case scenario, because now you're giving the opposition 7, possibly 8 points. So Tua did the absolute right thing by getting the ball out of the end zone, because he wasn't really in a position to recover it. And even if he did recover it in the end zone, again, still a safety, right? Except now you got 300-pound men jumping on top of Tua. So him batting the ball out of bounds was the best thing. I think they did call the penalty in the Dolphins, but they weren't penalized as far as the points and the outcome of the play. Either way, it was going to result in a safety, so that was the best thing. But, those are the kind of plays that, it turns the tide for the opposition. Now they get the ball, another chance, another possession that they probably weren't expecting. They also get 2 points on the board. And now they just have to drive down the length of the field and try to catch up to the Miami Dolphins. So not an ideal situation for the Dolphins at all, giving the Cardinals back the ball after, even if the Dolphins punted on that 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 12 play, after the 3rd and 12 play and it became 4th down, at least you can say to yourself, they could get the field position battle. But to give the 2 points and then give them back the ball, it's just the worst case scenario at that juncture in the game. So it's disappointing to see, but the Dolphins tried to rally back despite that error in the fourth quarter. Now, in terms of where the Dolphins go from here, I believe the Dolphins are still in second place in the AFC East, and they're a half game above both the Patriots and the Jets. I think they're both 2-6. The Dolphins, I think, is 2-5. And then you have the Bills at the top of the division. Now, the Dolphins aren't going to beat the Bills in the top of the division, barring, something miraculous happening. But they could still contend for a 7th seed in the wild card. The Dolphins, I believe, are somewhere like 9th place or 10th place out of, 10th place in the AFC. So that means they're 3 spots currently out of a wild card spot. This team hasn't really played well all season. Even in the games where they won, they didn't play particularly well. They didn't play well against the Jaguars. They didn't play well against the Patriots. And this game against the Cardinals was obviously an upgrade over the last 4 games, going back to the Buffalo game. But still is not good enough for them to be a serious contender for a playoff spot, much less the Super Bowl when they're playing like this. So we'll see how the Dolphins respond next week to playing in Buffalo. The Dolphins usually struggle against the Bills, as we all know. I think they're averaging like 35 points a game since Josh Allen has come to the Buffalo Bills. So the Dolphins are going to have their work cut out for them. They'll probably still be a little bit shorthanded on defense. So the offense will have to do what they can to pick up the slack. And we'll see if they can do it. The last time the Dolphins played against the Bills, even with Tua Tagovailoa in the lineup, it didn't go so well for the Miami Dolphins then. So we'll see if they can improve upon that performance and at least keep the game respectable, if not try to outright win the game versus the Bills. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the section below, and I'll see you in the next video.